Good evening, and thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy day to attend our Stop the Shutdown rally. I am so excited to see you here to show your support for opposing a government shutdown and cuts to critical climate programs. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Reggie Peros, and I lead advocacy campaigns and partnerships here at EDF and EDF Action. And you are a critical part of that. Our most powerful asset is the community of activists who are our EDF Action members, raising our collective voices to call for the changes we know we need to make. We'd love to hear who is turning in and where you're from, so feel free to add in the comments your name and where you're located. As we are all well aware by now, some Republicans in the House of Representatives are currently holding the government hostage unless they get their way and see extreme cuts to critical government programs. Their proposal includes a 39% cut to the EPA, representing the agency's lowest funding level since 1991. They want to slash overall agriculture funding by a third, money that helps our nation's farmers and ranchers innovate their operations. And they want to gut the Greenhouse Gas Emission Reduction Fund, despite the fact that the fund is already distributing grants to communities wanting to reduce their local pollution. The impacts of a government shutdown also go way beyond climate funding. If they get their way, Americans will pay the price with their health and their pocketbook. Speaking as a former congressional staffer, I remember picking up our office phones and hearing on the other side federal employees in our district who had been furloughed and were worried about whether they would receive their paycheck on time to pay their mortgage. I heard from veterans worried about losing access to healthcare at the VA, and mothers worried about providing food for their children because they lost access to supplemental nutrition funding. Inspections of chemical factories, power plants, and water treatment plants ground to a halt, and routine food safety inspections of seafood, fruits, and vegetables are also stopped. No one wins, and everyone is hurt by a government shutdown. And we need your help. This is an all-hands-on-deck moment to tell Congress that a government shutdown is unacceptable, and so are cuts to critical programs that reduce pollution, improve clean air and drinking water, and help us tackle the climate crisis. We have an extremely exciting program for you today, including a special message from the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. But first, in case you can't stay for the whole rally, be sure to visit edfaction.org/don'tcutclimate and send a short message to your member of Congress, encouraging them to stop the government shutdown. Now, I'd like to pass the floor to one of our fearless leaders here at EDF Action, our Senior Vice President of Political Affairs, Elizabeth Gore.
Thanks, Reggie, and thanks to everybody who's on the line with us tonight. This is it's so great to see such a nice crowd joining us to stop the effort on Capitol Hill to cut these climate programs and shut down the government. Reggie is exactly right. Nobody wins under this scenario. And so we want to make sure our voices are heard to keep the government open and to keep these important climate programs fully intact. So I wanted to take a minute and just talk about what's going on Capitol Hill right now. So if we start in the House of Representatives, the Republicans right now, they're in a state of disarray. They're arguing amongst themselves, and they cannot come to any kind of consensus about how to move forward with a bill that will keep the government open. Right now, they've pivoted to a whole other set of issues. They're doing long-term funding bills in areas like agriculture and defense, but they're not trying to deal with the immediate issue of a government shutdown that starts in just 3 days. So while they're doing all of that, over on the Senate side, there's been a little bit, cooler heads are prevailing over there a little bit more. There's bipartisan effort to provide stopgap funding for the entire government through the middle of November. Now, this is a responsible approach. It's not perfect, but it's one that has support of both Democrats and Republicans, and it's starting to move its way through the legislative process over there on the Senate. Now, the hope is that by late this week, that bill will pass the Senate with bipartisan support, and come over to the House. But there's just no clarity about what's going to happen then. It's not clear that Speaker McCarthy will even bring that bill up. And so here we are barreling towards a shutdown, even though there's a solution that's being developed in the Senate. And it's really because House Republicans can't agree amongst themselves about how to move forward. And they've paralyzed themselves in a way that drives us towards this shutdown. Now, is this confusing to you? It's confusing to me. And I've been doing this kind of work for a long, long time. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why we want to raise our voices and say, stop the silliness, fund the government, keep these climate programs intact. We can't see these draconian cuts that Reggie was talking about, the cuts that threaten our clean air and our clean water and the health and safety of our families and communities. So I urge you to weigh in, to raise your voice, to send a message. And while you're doing that, I'm going to send it back over to Reggie to bring us along on our program tonight. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for those really inspiring words. Now, I would like to encourage you to tune in to this very special message that we have from the top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. Congresswoman, over to you.
Hello, everyone. This is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, the ranking member of the House Committee on Appropriations, and I proudly represent Connecticut's 3rd Congressional District in Washington. Thank you for joining the Stop the Shutdown rally to ensure that your voice is heard. I commend you for standing up and fighting to keep the government open and investing in critical climate and clean energy programs. Here we are, just a few days before the end of the fiscal year. House Republicans have given us no path forward to keep the government open. It is absurd and it is preposterous. House Republicans have again demonstrated their unseriousness and unwillingness to govern. Rather than working to keep the lights on and ensuring federal workers and service members get paid, Republicans are pursuing a path explicitly designed to shut down the government. A government shutdown would hurt workers and families across the country, and the major funding cuts House Republicans are proposing would have devastating and long-term impacts on critical programs which protect all Americans. And, as many of you already know, House Republicans are threatening cuts that will hurt vital climate programs and undermine the nation's pollution reduction and clean energy process. The historic climate progress made under the Inflation Reduction Act and in last year's government funding package lays the foundation for building a cleaner, more equitable, and resilient future by reducing harmful pollution, improving our health, making us more energy secure, reducing energy bills, creating good-paying American jobs, and healing the planet. We are already seeing significant benefits across the United States, and we cannot allow a government shutdown and devastating House Republican cuts to slow down this progress. Congress is an institution that responds to external pressure, and you are that external pressure. All of you need to stand up and ensure that your voice is heard. Go to your members of Congress. Tell them we are relying on them to keep the government open and oppose cuts to climate and clean energy. We cannot win this fight without your support. Never give up and never take no for an answer.
We are so lucky to have Congresswoman DeLauro fighting the good fight on Capitol Hill and helping ensure that we are keeping our government open and that we are not seeing any critical cuts to climate funding programs. Now I would like to pass it over to President of EDF Action, David Kiva. David, over to you.
Hi, Reggie. I'm delighted to be here and delighted that you provided a brief moment of transition there. Congresswoman DeLauro is not just, as we've discussed, a powerful appropriator or a knowledgeable and expert legislator. She's also a style icon, and I'm sitting here in a plaid shirt and a blazer. Reggie mentioned this in his comments at the top, but I just want to double down on it. Thank you, thank you, thank you to each and every one of you who are a part of this discussion this afternoon, this evening. If you are as confused as we are about why anyone would want to create a government shutdown, let me leave no confusion about what you can do about it. That you're already here shows that you understand that your voice is powerful, and that if you raise it, that it may have an impact. We need Congress to hear from you. We need your friends and peers and everyone who follows you on social media to hear from you that you find the idea of a government shutdown to be absolutely unacceptable, and that you are committed to calling out those who would stand in the way. There are 435 members of Congress. All it takes, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. It takes 218 votes in order to pass a bill in Congress. There have to be at least 218 people who don't want a government shutdown. But the Speaker of the House is allowing himself to be held hostage to the most extreme voices within his caucus and within the fringes of the Republican Party. They don't care about what you think. It's everybody else who does. Those guys are effectively unpersuadable. But if we raise our voice and tell our legislators and our lawmakers that we want them to do their jobs and to vote to keep the government open, it'll have a really, really powerful impact. So I'm delighted that everyone is here. I'm delighted that folks are committing to raise their voices to say, don't cut climate. I'm delighted to be standing shoulder to shoulder with wonderful colleagues like Reggie and Elizabeth, and to be standing with people who I'm not even in the same league as, like Congresswoman DeLauro, and urging each of you to raise your voice and to do everything that you can to encourage others to speak out loudly against this looming shutdown, which is completely unnecessary and will result in negative impacts on all of the things that we care about, and things that are beyond the purview even of just EDF action. So as you can see on the crawl underneath me, that's kind of cool. Take action now at edfaction.org/don'tcutclimate. Please take a few moments to go, and then go on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it now, or Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and post that you are disgusted that our government would be this close to a shutdown, and that you're calling on your lawmakers to take action to keep our government open, and that you're encouraging all of your friends and family and peers to do the same. Thanks so much for having me. Back to you, Reggie.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you, Elizabeth, for your remarks. And Congresswoman DeLauro, thank you so much for your special message and your leadership here in Congress. If it wasn't clear by now, we are really worried about a government shutdown. A shutdown is unnecessary and harmful to all Americans. Congress needs to do their job, fund the government, and oppose cuts to critical programs that benefit our homes and communities. So, what can we do? Well, I think David just mentioned it. Your voice is incredibly powerful, and we need you to use it. You have the ability to influence your members of Congress and tell them to stop the shutdown and fund climate. On the screen, you should see two really simple actions that you can take right now to have your voice heard. First, email your member of Congress. Visit edfaction.org/don'tcutclimate, enter in your contact information, and you'll be directed to a pre-populated message that you can send directly to your representatives through just a few clicks of the mouse. Second, post on social media. If you're on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, send a tweet to your congressperson using the hashtag #StopTheShutdown. And if you're on TikTok or Instagram and have some extra time, post a video using the same hashtag and encourage your friends and followers to do the same. Now, so you don't forget, we're going to give you a few minutes to take one of these incredibly impactful actions to help stop the shutdown. Once you're done, write in the comments, "Done," and list the member of Congress you contacted. We really appreciate all of you sticking around and taking those really easy steps to help stop the shutdown and oppose cuts to critical climate programs. Each of you are incredibly important to the climate movement, and we are so lucky to have you as a part of our team. Be sure to keep in touch with us and follow us on Twitter at EDF Action and on Instagram at EDF Action Climate. And be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 5:45 p.m. for Climate Voters Tonight, your 15-minute climate news brief. Thank you all again for your support, and have a great evening.